Hello friends, and welcome back to another episode of Entitled People. Hope you're all doing awesome today, and it's time for more stories about some real special individuals. So be sure to like and subscribe, and let's begin. Other people's children. This happened yesterday, but is carried over into today. My son is learning to drive, so sometimes I'll finish up at work early and pick him up so he can drive home. Yesterday, the parking lot was fuller than usual, and this minivan kept driving around looking for a spot. They finally decided to squeeze in between me and the curb, adding up barely 2 inches from my passenger side mirror. Their child comes out, and this guy starts gesturing at me, because obviously there is no way anyone is getting in either of our cars from the passenger sides. He rolls the window down and motions for me to do the same. The moment I do, he begins to berate me loudly and very aggressively, saying I should move from my spot so his kid can get in his car. Keep in mind, I'm in a parking spot, in a small car. He is in this big minivan squeezed into this non-space. I just rolled my window back up and ignored him. Then I feel a thump and look in my rearview mirror to see him walking back to his car. It legit felt like someone ran into me lightly. I didn't dare get out as I'm already a bit intimidated. And this dude is obviously a bully after screaming at me to move for the past 5 minutes through a closed window. The guy pulls ahead, his kid gets in and they leave. I get out of my car and go around to the back and see a massive crack in the bumper of my brand new car, right in the center of what looks like a boot print. This is my first new car ever, barely a month into my 2-year lease, and this happens. I get a quote, nearly $4,000 to fix the bumper, as it needed to be replaced. It was kicked so hard it actually broke some clips that held onto it too, and this was the recommendation of the dealership, as it was very loose. Unfortunately, as a leased car, this has to be fixed ASAP according to my contract. I go back to the school in hopes I can get some identifying info on the guy, to file a report and recoup costs through their insurance. We can clearly see the front of the van, but not the back where the license plate is, because of where he is parked, ironically blocked from view by my car. Fast forward to today. I get to work and my boss calls me into her office. There was a complaint made yesterday about how rude I was, and that I was most likely driving under the influence. My boss is awesome. She knows full well there's no way I would do any of that, so she just gives me a heads up and that's it. It's almost 10 a.m. and I just answered a call. It was him, asking if disciplinary action has been taken yet. I interconnected my line to my boss's so I had a witness, and the conversation was interesting. He had no idea it was me, and I was asking for details from the encounter. He gives them, not realizing I filed a police report the day before that wasn't likely to go anywhere, as I had no license plate number or name. So I just got emailed to me the guy's name, address, make, model, and year of the vehicle, and the license plate number. I just got off the phone with the police. I don't think he'll be happy to see them on his doorstep. Maybe he should have just been happy with vandalism, instead of also trying to get me fired. Entitled people suck. Yeah man, this guy totally shot himself in the foot. He definitely would have gotten away with kicking OP's car too. The fact that he literally dropped all of his identifying info right into OP's lap is just pure gold. I quit. Karen reported me to HR for it. I was the director of sales operations for a 40M/year software company. Karen was on my team. We processed purchase orders. Karen had a small vehicle accident that put her in a neck brace. She also needed once weekly physical therapy appointments and had some restrictions on duties, all of which I accommodated. No issue. Despite meeting her needs, Karen decided coming into work was optional. HR noticed that she was repeatedly absent from work 3 to 4 days at a time, multiple weeks in a row. They did not give me details but told me documentation from her doctor did not justify all of these absences. To make matters worse, Karen would never give notice that she was going to be out, and sometimes would just no-show without ever calling, nor indicate how long she would be out. HR eventually told Karen she needed to either attend work more regularly or get a doctor to sign off on short-term disability. This worked for me. I would rather Karen take extended time off so I could get a temp to take her responsibilities than be absent frequently with no warning. Karen's original doctor would not document a need for disability, so she found a doctor who would. She bragged to the team that she found a doc that would sign off on anything. So Karen went on disability, and I was able to get a temp to cover her until she returned. Even though coworkers who kept in contact told me Karen was going to clubs and dancing and such, I didn't care. That was between her and HR. For now at least, the work was getting done. The time period of Karen's short-term disability eventually expired. At this point, she either had to come back to work or go on long-term disability so I could replace her permanently. Karen's sign-anything doctor would not give her documentation for a long-term disability. So Karen grudgingly came back to work. She quickly went back to being absent all of the time. She also refused to do even basic duties of her job. I went to HR and told them things were not working out and that I wanted to replace her. They were on board with this plan. HR brought Karen in for the talk, but Karen flipped out and said she would sue. Suddenly, HR was not on board. Didn't matter that Karen had no legal standing. Just the threat of a lawsuit made HR decide it was more important to make Karen happy than to let me have a functional operations department. In one instance, I asked Karen to do purchase order review, and she complained to HR about me bossing her around. I'm her boss. HR told me that I could no longer give assignments or work duties to Karen. What the f***? When I said that was fine, as long as they let me hire someone else to do Karen's job, they refused to give me a rec for a new employee. This went on for months, and Karen quickly learned she could complain to HR about anything and get her way. You would not believe the accommodations she was given. Meanwhile, she made no effort to hide that she was not really injured anymore, was barely coming to work, but was still getting paid. She even encouraged other team members to take advantage of this loophole she had found. Then one day, during month-end crunch, Karen had not come in or called, so I called and asked her if she planned to work that day. It was a simple question, carefully crafted to be neutral in tone. She told HR that I had harassed her with my phone call. I got written up, so I immediately put in my 2-week notice. Not going to deal with my career being screwed by a woman who had, quote, worked maybe 6 days in a month, especially when I gave 60 to 70 hours a week to the company. With me suddenly gone, the sales operations fell apart. Purchase orders were not going through. To address this emergency, a company senior VP took over sales ops until my replacement could be found. HR was certainly not going to tell this guy he could not give Karen duties, so Karen actually had to work. About a month after I quit, Karen got my home phone number and called me, furious that she now had to actually work. She told me she was going to report me to HR for a company I no longer worked for. And sure enough, she did exactly that. I kept in touch with members of my old team, and they told me she was laughed out of the HR office. But here's where it gets absurd. Karen called me again, cursing, screaming, and threatening me, and demanded I give her the contact information for HR at my new company. She was going to report me to a department that had no idea who she was, nor had any jurisdiction over her complaints. The stupidity was unbelievable, and I giggled at her right up until I hung up and blocked her. Last I heard, Karen was finally fired, got 0 unemployment benefits, and ended up moving her and her kids in with her mom. Now that HR department is just as much at fault as that Karen is. What an absolute joke. Good riddance to that place, OP. I really just don't get how an HR department can actually get away with telling someone to not give orders or duties to their employees. Makes me wonder if the Karen maybe had some kind of personal connection with someone in HR. I find entitled parents' infant in the road. They accuse me of trying to kidnap their son. So I was walking home from the store, going to buy some bread and a couple sodas, when I see a baby who we'll call poor kid, about 1 or 2, walking on the side of the road, sort of in between the road and the sidewalk. I cross the road, being super uncomfortable around small children. I look back up to see him now standing in the middle of the road. I look around, trying to see if any parents are outside. Nope, only me and him. Luckily, there were no cars coming, so I move him onto the sidewalk, and I ask him where he lives. Of course, him being a baby said nothing. I sigh, look around again, and begin knocking on doors. It was the somewhat inner city-ish, not quite suburban, not quite full city, so the houses were evenly spaced and pretty close. I knocked on the first door in front of us. An old man opens the door and I ask him, "Is this your child?" To which he responds, "No." He pointed at a house across the street. That means the poor kid crossed the street at least once. I thank him and go over to the house he pointed me towards. I knock on the door and this old Hispanic lady who we'll call Entitled Mom opened the door. No, she did not have the Karen haircut. Before I even get a word out, she sees the kid and immediately shoves me out of the way so she can pick him up. After picking the kid up, she says to me, "What have you done to my child?" "What? I didn't do anything," I said. "Don't lie to me, you p***. You tried to kidnap him," she said. I'm getting increasingly annoyed and I say, "I just found him in the..." She cuts me off. "Shut the f*** up, you tried to steal him." "What's going on out here?" said the entitled father. "I just found your kid in the..." Entitled Mom interrupts. "He tried to kidnap our son." "What the f***? Get the f*** away from my family, you f***ing pervert," said the dad. "Seriously, there's a child right there." And I just say, "I'm just gonna go now." "You better f***ing leave before I call the sheriff," said the father. And so I leave. So I ended up calling the police right after. I told them what happened, their address, and they told me they'd go over and check it out. So far, I don't know what's happening. It's getting late and I'm gonna head to bed. I'll update if anything else happens. And no, OP never updated after that, but I don't imagine they would know what came of it anyway. Entitled neighbor mows our lawn without permission, then expects payment. So our neighbor is, quote, new to the street, 6 months tops. He owns a mowing service and wakes me nearly every morning at 4:20 a.m., using power tools of some kind out the front before he heads to work. So last week my husband started to whippersnip the front. However, a storm came across and he had to come inside before he could mow. On the weekend, we hear both neighbors start mowing at 8 a.m. as we are getting the kids ready for a birthday party. I look out the front and see the new neighbor on his ride-on doing our front lawn. As I notice him, he finishes and goes back next door. I mention it to my husband and we are both feeling pretty awkward about it, as we haven't formally met them. And why is he randomly mowing our lawn? Is he being nice? What is this? We head out to the kids' party and arrive home midday. Under the door is a bill for lawn mowing. The cheeky sod was asking for 55 Australian dollars for 30 minutes on his ride-on that we didn't ask for. I take the bill to their house and hand it to his wife, explaining we weren't paying as we never asked him to mow, and we are extremely confused by the situation. She honestly didn't even look shocked at what her husband did. She said she will give it back to him and that was it. We are thinking they were trying to scam us into paying. Seriously, who charges $110 per hour for a mowing service? The fact that the wife didn't even look surprised really tells me that she probably knew what was going on too. If I were to guess, this is probably something they've done before with people. Mowing people's yards without permission and giving them a giant bill, and just hoping that people will feel indebted to them and just pay up. Pretty manipulative if you ask me. But as long as you don't fall for it, you can really just ignore it. There's nothing they can do. And you got your lawn mowed for free now, so I guess it's a win in the end. And that's going to be it for today, guys. Thank you for watching. Be sure to drop a like, I'd really appreciate it. And also be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. So have an awesome day, everyone, and I'll see you next time.